episode 406 of the DFO Rundown, brought to you as always by Bet365. It's never ordinary. Bet365, get in the game and use the promo code NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N. All sorts of games, and man, it's October. NFL, you've got, of course, NHL starting on Tuesday night. You got the NBA later on, MLB playoffs. We're into the second round officially of MLB playoffs, so there's lots happening at Bet365. I'm Jason Greger, and we welcome in Mike Rupp, of course, former NHLer, Stanley Cup winner, Game 7 hero. Do you have that game sheet of Game 7, Rupper, somewhere in your house?
You know, it's funny. I did not have it. I'd say, how many years ago was that? I mean, it's been a little bit now, probably 8 years ago. I got a letter in the mail in a big envelope, and it was from Doc Emmerich, who ended up, he ended up having the game sheet and gave it to me, and it was incredible. It was cool to receive that and have that. So, yeah, I have it somewhere in here. It's not framed or anything yet, but it's put away somewhere safe.
That you got to have that, man. For anybody who doesn't know, 2 Genos for Rupper in that game, including the game winner, if I'm not mistaken. So that is, and you were a rookie, like
yeah,
2000. That's quite the experience for a rookie kid coming through in Game 7. Like, my God, how many beers did you have that night? Do you remember?
So it's funny. What's so funny is, like, I always say, people always say I had 2 goals. I had a goal and 2 assists. So I think in that game, Jeff Friesen, I can't cut him short. Jeff Friesen was incredible. And Game 7's in the playoff run in general for the Devils, getting game winners and doing all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I assisted on Friese's 2 goals, and I was fortunate enough to get 1. That night was, it was funny. It was you obviously in your gear for a long time, and this was at the Meadowlands Continental Airlines Arena in New Jersey. And I never really did post game. We'd had media scrums up to that point because I had about 30 games in the National Hockey League, but never really had anything to that capacity. But it was funny because I was getting shuttled around to different media outlets, and I was just walking on the concrete in my skates the whole time, just kind of cruising around. Like, people are just the PR departments are kind of bringing me around. And the cool part too is, I got approached at one point. I don't remember who it was, but the Hockey Hall of Fame comes up. They're like, "Hey, can we have your stick? It's in good hands." I got the nod from our team. We will get it back to you. And I'm like, absolutely. The Hockey Hall of Fame wants something of mine. Are you kidding me? So they put a little bit of a display out there for about a year, and then I got the stuff back. So cool night. Beers, yeah. It took me a little bit to get back with the boys. They probably already had quite a few before I had my first. But yeah, it was an awesome night.
So you were doing no interviews back then, a la Kucherov. Remember when he did his presser? Oh my God, shirtless. He was half-snapped, like, so funny watching it. But yeah, it was a little bit different time back then, which is funny because I think guys drank on average more in 2003 than they do in 2022. But it was definitely a different press conference. It's quite funny.
No, yeah, it was. It's funny because we always got the podium press conferences now, and that was the case then. But that was always reserved for the big guys, right? And there's a lot of big guys on the team. There's Scotty Stevens, Marty was absolutely incredible, having that shutout, 3 shutouts in the Stanley Cup Finals. Then there was just these kind of pop-ups and these tables that you just kind of went to and did, whether it's NHL International. I mean, that was that cool part for me too, being a rookie. And I'm doing interviews for a Japanese outlet. And that's one of the cutouts I got. That was back in the day, right, where you're getting cutouts from newspapers. Yes. And my family's doing it. People are sending me stuff, and I have an article where it's got us celebrating after the goal, and it's a Japanese newspaper. I thought that was super cool. It makes you feel, like that was a huge moment.
Oh God, I can imagine, man. Like that's it's so amazing. And I know it's like 20. Well, it was just 22 years ago this past spring. So it's been a while, but I'm sure the great part about like 22 years, I'm sure if I asked you to go through play-by-play of that Game 7, you could still to a T describe what happened, because it's such a life-altering, time in your life.
No, it's funny when you say that, because I actually never watched the game back until it was when I was retired. So I've been retired now this is my 10th year out. So somewhere around 9 years ago, I watched it for the first time. I probably only watched it 2 or 3 times since it happened. And I remember the feeling, though, even prior, knowing and being able to recall the game. It was just one of those games. And I'm a perfect example of that. The fact that I was not a point getter. I was not a top line guy in my career. The fact that I had three points in that game was it was the best game of my life, right? So you're able to recall those moments, and it was just one of those nights. And I give a ton of credit to Friesen and Langenbrunner, my line mates, because they were awesome all playoffs long. So I kind of jumped in, and they really kind of took care of me. But like Greg's, we legit could have had 2 or 3 more goals easily. And I remember one distinctive play, I got fed a heavy backdoor pass on my forehand side, the ones where you're like, hey, just have a strong lower hand, lean into this, be ready. Had Jaguar beat, and I blubbed it. And I'm like, oh no. And that happened in the game. That one, it's funny because even though the result is what it was and that's what we wanted, that one still bugs me. So it was just one of those nights, man. I feel like we could have had 5 or 6 points our line.
Oh, it's awesome that geez, yeah, we won, but God, I could have had a few more in that game if I really wanted, which is kind of crazy to think so. But it is it's wild though for anybody like it's not that you just had 3 points. The Devils only scored 3 goals, and Mike Rupp is in on all of them, right? So your line obviously with Friesen, he scored twice, but that's just a huge, it's one of the great memories of a game 7. Like I know the guys, Ken Reed's written a lot of kind of unique books, but you could write like the unexpected playoff heroes and write books about it. And that's not an insult, but that's like, if you're going into a game 7, I'm sure all the storylines were like, okay, what's Eliash going to do? Niedermeyer. Yeah. No one was thinking, hey, Mike Rupp's going to be, a 3-point guy in a 3-0 game. And that's why, and I think sometimes people forget, like anybody who's in the NHL, you still got that ability. You just can't do it every night like the elite level guys, right? So,
yeah, no, and that's a great point. And this is why, even on this side of it, doing the analyst side, it's so important for me to just, I talk about this every playoffs when we get around to that time. You have to, coaches nowadays, I mean, it's always kind of been that way, but even more so, I would say now, you have to give equity and value to every guy in the lineup. And of course, guys like me are not going to get treated the same and maybe not have as long of a leash as some of the top end guys because they create, and you got to allow them to do that. But if you're not using 4 lines, or at least giving them the ability, that's why I love having depth guys. I think they have to be your penalty killers. They have to be your penalty killers in situational play. Give them a job, make them feel like part of the team. Because you're going to get into certain moments where you're going to need that. You're going to need that. And the Devils, that was a very good team that they probably wouldn't need me, but in that moment, they needed something from someone. And our line did it, and it was a guy that normally wouldn't do it because guess what? No one's game planning for Mike Rupp in a game 7. Nobody. My name's not getting mentioned in Anaheim's dressing room. But because I was the prior games fed some confidence and had, hey, you got some equity in this game, you can have some say in what happens, I was able to come through. So that's why, I was I put a message out on X yesterday, like the Toronto Maple Leafs lineup is the first time, and I think Craig Berube will use it that way. Like they've got guys who they have on paper, give them some roles, give them some jobs. They can contribute and help out from the night to night basis. I think that's so huge in the NHL. You got to have coaches that allow that.
Yeah, I think it's very true. I think if you look at, it's understandable you want your best guys in certain roles, but you have to find. Yeah. And so if your best guys are going to be some of your power play and your penalty killers, well, then you're going to have to trust your 4th line guys to play more 5-on-5, right? Like not more than your top guys, but if you can't get, 9 to 11 minutes a night from your 4th line, I just think it's hard to expect those players to contribute. You're just sitting for too long.
And that's where the difference is too, because wherever that threshold is, like I felt like I was always a player that, like, if you just got me to 9 minutes, I could make a difference in the game. I can make a play to make a difference when you were cooking. And some nights it just happened that way. I wasn't at certain stages in my career, I wasn't playing special teams, so you're losing minutes there. Other times I was playing special teams, and that helped out a lot to make you feel like game. But anyways, when I was getting under 9, it was survival mode, man. When I jumped over the boards, my line was up. It was like, hey, let's just get back to the bench and keep this game, the score the same, right? Like that was a win. So when you have that mindset of getting over there and just trying to get through the shift, you're not really making an impact on the game. So I love coaches that allow 18 players to have a say in the outcome of the game. When you have coaches, and there's understandably so, sometimes you got to shorten the bench. I get it. But when you can find creative ways to free up guys and you can get as close to 18 guys that are really feeling the game, I think you got a good chance.
Rupper, let's look for a few things. We got some young defensemen cashing in big time this week. As Jackson Lacombe gets a $9 million AAV, as does Luke Hughes. Lacombe goes to the full 8-year ride with that. You look at Hughes and you look at Lacombe. This can be a fun question. Who do you like better? Which one of those contracts do you think might look better than the other one, even though the AAV is the exact same?
It's a tough one. I was looking at that, and they're pretty similar in a lot of ways. I feel like I love both of them a lot. As far as what's a better contract to me, Jackson Lacombe's 24. Luke Hughes is 22, so I kind of take that into account as well. What I think Luke got the 7-year, and then Lacombe got the 8-year. They're both about 6'2". They got some decent range, decent size. They do a lot of things really well. Both of them are, I think, when the season gets going and you get Luke Hughes fully going, both are going to be running their team's power plays, I believe. It's a tough one to pick. And the reason why I will say what I'm going to say is because of other things. I think it's kind of a wash. I like both these guys. These are both two defensemen you build your franchises around, and they both probably are overpaid right now. Now, going into this in the projection, that's the NHL, right? Like, it's project and protect. Project what you think they're going to be and do everything you can to protect them as long as you can. And that's what both teams have done here. I'll say this, though. Maybe it's the pulling out the magnifying glass for me and maybe other people. I kind of like, outside of the players involved in these two signings, I like the Luke Hughes because I think it gives us an opportunity to read the tea leaves on the Hughes brothers moving forward. You know what I mean? Like, I think that gives us the opportunity to be like, all right, well, if Luke is committing to this time and this term in New Jersey, we know Jack's got years remaining. Quinn's the big kind of X factor in all this. I think if you saw this Luke Hughes deal come out any shorter than what it is, then I'd be like, I don't know. Like, what's the plan here? So, but for me, I think both these guys are very equal to one another. I could watch them all the time. I still think there's both guys, the more they commit to playing the defensive game, I think they could both be absolute studs in this league.
What's interesting is now Luke Hughes is the highest paid of the Hughes brothers. He's at 9, Jack's at 8, and Quinn, who I think most would say is probably the most dynamic, is currently the lowest paid. Now, in 2 years, that'll change when his new contract kicks in. He's got 2 years left on his deal, and it just illustrates kind of how the timeline changes. I'm a real big Jackson Lacombe fan. I think Jackson Lacombe, there's lots of people who maybe don't. Well, no, there's not a lot of people that we're going to watch the Ducks all the time. They're not an overly competitive team. They're a little bit of an up-and-comer. I think they're more of an up-and-comer this year. And then you throw in, the timeline of when their games are played. So if their games are starting at 7, that's 10 o'clock Eastern. There's maybe not as many people watching to see Jackson Lacombe. But I'm telling you, this guy is dynamic. At 14, I think he's a little bit more of a finisher than Hughes, which I know might not matter because you're a defenseman. But if you can get goals from your D-men, guys who can score goals, I think it's nice to have playmakers. But if you have a guy who can score goals, because every time you pass it, you still require the guy who was receiving the pass to shoot it into the net. As Rupper told us earlier, he got a great pass, didn't bear down, doesn't go in the net. So I think Jackson Lacombe for the team might play a bigger role. But I do agree with you that I think they'll both be running the power play. And like, I look at Luke Hughes, and because he's so much bigger than his brother Quinn, I think he still has a chance to be a bigger, impactful player in the playoffs. Just because at times size matters. You cover up more space. You're longer. You know, you get in lanes a little bit easier. And I think his potential of the three Hughes brothers still has the high. Right now, Quinn's being the best player, no question. And he might always remain. But the one thing Luke has is he's got great ability, but he has the size advantage. And that can definitely play out as we've seen in the playoffs.
Now, that's a great point. And that's one of the things that we have to take into account here too, is what does it doesn't need to, and it probably won't look the same as Quinn Hughes' success. You know, and I wonder, I don't know. I'm not part of the family. I'm not one of the three brothers. Each one of them is their own personal player. But I think if Luke tries to approach it and be the player that Quinn is, I don't know if it's going to work out to its fullest. He's a heck of a player the way he is. He's certainly offensively gifted. My point being is I don't believe he will be as offensively active in the NHL on a consistent basis or productive as Quinn is. But that's okay, because those things you mentioned, he has something that Quinn doesn't have. He has reach. He has size. His stature in itself right now already lends to be good in the right time of the season in the playoffs. So I hope that he has the appetite to dig in. You cannot create a player to be good defensively unless they're willing to and want to and competitively want to do everything they can to get better. I always use this example, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Sidney Crosby did not come into this league as a defensive player. I played against him. I know he got 100 points right off the hop. He was ready to go, but he wanted to be on the ice late in games when you're protecting the lead. He changed those things. I saw him put the work in to get better in those aspects. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be an all-time great in Luke Hughes, but if he's willing to do those things, the offense, that's him. That's what he does. That's what he brings. If he can defensively dig in a little bit, I think a Luke Hughes at potentially 70 points for me is more valuable long-term than him trying to get 90 points and be a little too run and gun.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Now, it is Friday before the start of the NHL season. There will be some interesting decisions made over the weekend by teams that they got to get down to their roster. And this is the time of year to remind fans that you might see a player who gets sent down on Sunday and you're like, what? I thought he was there. But you always got to look at lots of different things. Waiver wire, waiver exemption matters. Guys with bonuses for any team who has players that they're going to put on LTIR, always remember that if you're a player who has a performance bonus in their contract, who doesn't require waivers, and if you send that player down and they're not on the day one opening roster, if you recall them the next day, it's not their AAV that counts as their cap. It's their cap plus their performance bonuses. And that's a big difference. So if you're a rookie who makes $925, but you've got $900K in potential performance bonuses, if you're on the opening day roster, you only count as $925. But if you're not, and then when you're recalled during the season, you're actually a 1.825 cap hit. It's a very weird little rule that they have in the NHL. So that's something that I think gets overlooked sometimes by fans. So watch that stuff, because there obviously are going to be some teams who you prefer not to be in LTIR before the season starts if you can avoid it. And you can get all your players in, you make your roster moves, then the next day you move guys to LTIR, then you can call some people back up. Also, the new rule, the AHL, I got confirmation from a few teams, Rupper, because we saw it that this year they said if you send a player down to the minors, they have to play a game in the AHL. Well, it's not that clear cut and dry. So I got confirmation that how it works is basically they're trying to stop teams doing what Carolina did a lot last year. San Jose's done it in the past, where Mike Rupp gets sent down on Monday. So now he's a two-way contract, right? He's making his NHL money on Sunday, but now on Monday he's making his AHL money. And usually that's like a 10-time difference, right? If you're making $900K, it's about $4,000 a day in the NHL. But if you're in the minors, you're making 72. Well, now you're talking 400. So it's a big difference. It's actually less than that. So They want to limit that so the players aren't getting hurt, because teams would do it to save the cap space. And the guy doesn't leave Carolina. He just stays there for a day. Then they recall him. And so I was told that for the start of the season, if they want to do that, there's no issue, because guys, there's no AHL games to play, number one. B, you're up and down. And then when the season salary starts on day two, you're not going to lose that much. Players on one-way contracts, it isn't as much of an issue because they're getting paid the same anyway.
Yeah.
So there will be situations where if I send Mike Rupp down on a Monday, and I think he's going to go down, but then we play Monday night and I lose a guy to injury, I can recall Mike Rupp the next day because there's a clear reason why they did it. So it's not as clear cut and dry as if you send a player down, he 100% has to play a game in the American League before you can recall him. So just want to clarify that as well, because there's a few new little wrinkles in the rule book this coming season that fans will want to be up on for sure. Now, the Florida Panthers already have lots of injuries. 3 of their 12 forwards are out. And Lundell left that feisty game last night, by the way, in Tampa and in Florida, man. That rivalry, they're going to play again on Saturday, and I'm curious to see what happens. But, you have a few, and I don't know if sometimes sucker punch, it's kind of like people use the term melee in a brawl when there's actually just, a scrum. But what did you make of that Tampa-Florida game and the fact that we're waiting on Lundell? If Lundell, who left that game, has any sort of injury, man, the center depth of Florida just continues to get absolutely beaten up. They're hoping that it's nothing serious.
I mean, that's a guy that cannot afford. I mean, they're kind of at the point now with Kachuk out for a good portion, and then Barkov news that we saw. They can't afford any more of these injuries. So you're hoping Anton Lundell, and that's a guy who would have to shoulder a lot of responsibility with Barkov being out. So, but I love seeing the feistiness. I love it. I don't care if it's preseason or not, like in who it is too. We saw that the other day with Montreal and Ottawa. Yeah. That matters who it is. I don't want to just see people just acting dumb for no reason. But I will say, just throwing a little gasoline on the fire before the season starts with a rival. It's never a bad thing, and I think that's what we saw here. I just you know what? How about Connor Geeky though? You see the little spinorama goal he ended up having in that game. Like, what a move by him! I mean, he's a funny one when you watch him kind of do his thing. He's I don't know how to say it. Like, he's not a great skater, but he gets from A to B fine. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And just kind of turns up, does his little spinorama on Seth Jones, makes him look silly. It's impressive, but that's just another run of players to kind of keep this thing alive. I think both teams are going to be battling all season long. So a little feistiness in a preseason game, I think, is a good thing, especially when you got these two teams.
Well, it's late in it now. And really for Florida, that was the first preseason game for the vast majority of their guys, I think, other than 5. They kind of had a unique giving off an extra week, essentially. When camp started, they weren't skating with their other groups. If you look at Florida, they brought in lots of guys on PTOs and others, I think, just so they could get to the required minimum of veterans in those games. And you didn't have a lot of their Stanley Cup winning roster play any games until last night.
I got a question for you, and I do not know the answer for. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Do you have to play a maximum or a minimum number of preseason games? And the reason why I asked
that, no player has to. No.
The team. The team.
Oh,
standpoint.
the team. Minimum 6 now, right?
Okay.
And maximum 8, but that changes. Thank God.
I wonder. And I wonder if I don't know. I just sit there and you think about, we know that the preseason is being shortened in the new CBA. We know there's some adjustments being made and there's conversations on what the regular season looks like. But the reason why I ask that is because I just even remember you talk to people now, coaches now, you talk to coaches back even when I played. These seasons practice plans, they're literally designed now, and it's generally a game plan. So say the St. Louis Blues are sitting there and Jim Montgomery has it mapped out how many full practice days we have all season long. And those are huge because there's not a ton of practice time, especially when you're playing every other night. You got guys, you have optionals, you got a lot of things. And when I mean full practice, it's not a lot of practices in the NHL or just get out there, stay loose, feel good. We can work on a couple things, maybe some special teams, but full practices where you're working on D-zone coverage, backtracking, all these types of things. It doesn't happen that much. And I wonder if we're starting to see the point now where I don't know how valuable preseason games are. I mean, I think they're important to some regard, but you want to get to your team as quick as possible. So If you ever had a opportunity, I would love for a team to have the option of being like, hey, we're going to play 3 preseason games. Like that's all we're going to go for. I'd rather use full practice time and get to our team even quicker. I think it'd be beneficial, but yeah, that was a question. I didn't know that there was a minimum. I understand why it's going to hurt, maybe getting some gate and doing some other things, but I think coaches would love it.
Well, starting next year, you will only have 4 is the total number that you can have, and veterans who have played 100 NHL games can only play in 2. So, and training camps actually shortened. But I talked to some veteran players who they think with the shorter training camp, you just might have captain skates start, a bit earlier to kind of compensate that. I found that rather interesting, right? Just as you talk, just kind of get skating. There's no coaches out there. You're allowed a skills coach now, but you can't have your head coach or any of your main guys on there, which is fascinating to me a little bit. But the preseason, like, here's the truth. If you go through most NHL rosters, Rupp, when training camp begins, there's probably 15, maybe 16 forwards and 8 and maybe 9 defensemen with a realistic chance to make your team. That's just the truth. Now, you know what? You go through it, you bring in all the players and everybody's great, but that's the reality of it. And so I think you get down to 4. Some people think it's going to make it harder for guys to make teams. I actually disagree, because if you're a bubble guy, guess what? You're probably going to play in 3 of those 4 games. And most of them are like, the first game might have a little bit of, okay, we'll let one of our first round draft picks play, but you're not going to see as many AHL guys playing in those games anymore, simply because you know what, you want other close guys. Now I know your vets can only play 2. So, you might still have that first game that's pretty light, but I think if you're a bubble guy who really wants to prove things, you'll get to play 3 or 4 games for sure. And have the opportunity, at least 2 of them, maybe like 2 of them against close to NHL rosters, right? Because most teams like at least the last game of preseason and sometimes the second last one to be closer to your roster, right? And I'm more interested to see which teams pair up, and do they just play, like, does Edmonton just play Vancouver and Calgary? Does New Jersey just play the Islanders and the Rangers, right? Florida is obviously going to play Tampa Bay. What do they do? Are teams only going to pick 2 opponents each year and just play them twice, or are they going to try to rotate it around? I'm kind of fascinated by that.
Yeah, I love it. I just think it's kind of a game inside the game. Some of the rules are changing, but I think there's room for even more. And it's interesting, but it's tough too, because that's the hard thing as a player. You're coming into camp, and some of the bubble guys, some of the guys coming into the camp, you're on the bubble. You got a chance to make the team. But some of the great stories that we've always seen is guys, they've never been considered to make the team, but they open eyes in camp. And all of a sudden, then you get into the regular season, maybe they get sent down to the American Hockey League coming out of camp, and you're like, and you always see that. Hey, let's reward Jason Gregor. Like he's a guy that does it the right way. Like, let's toss him a bone here. But you got to get noticed. And I don't want to take away any opportunities from players getting noticed. But to your point, you know who the team is. Let's get it down to that. Let's get more practice time. I think coaches would enjoy that.
Now let's get to some fun predictions looking at the upcoming season. So it's a funny trend that might be hard to match, that in the last 3 years, Rupper, at least 3 and once 4 100-point teams from the previous year missed the playoffs the next year, right? So you think about last year, you had Boston, the Rangers, the Canucks. Those teams all had 109 points or more, and they all missed the playoffs. So I know every year you look at predictions, and I've been looking at that trend, and I'm like, geez, I don't know if it's going to continue. There was the fewest 100-point teams we had in a while last year, with only 9 compared to other years of having 12 and 13. So it makes it a little bit harder. So I'm going to ask you, who of the playoff teams from last year do you think are going to miss the postseason this year?
So with those numbers you just threw out there, with like over 100 points, there's a lot of movement is basically what you're saying. And there's a lot of things that change from year to year. So I'm going to give you one that I feel strongly, maybe not strongly, one that I would probably say if I had to pick, and then I'll throw one from the same conference in regards to another team that I think is vulnerable, maybe a team that was very solidly in the playoffs last year. I'll say the first team that I think will not make the playoffs this year, or it's going to be a challenge, is probably the Montreal Canadiens. And I know a lot of people are very high on them. They were on a run last year. What they did last year was something special. I'm a big fan of their future and what they're doing. I don't know. There's something in me that thinks maybe that top line isn't quite so dominant. How do things figure out here with Demidov and Line? Like, great talent with both of them, but Marty St. Louis, now there's a little bit of pressure to win in Montreal. Like, where do those guys fit in? Who exactly are they playing with? Up and coming D-core that I really like. Goaltending, it's fine, it's good, but I don't know if they're going to be able to repeat some of the individual career years they had last year. Excuse me, and also the type of run that they did go on, and they're also a playoff team at -20, and I don't love that as far as goal differential. So we'll see what that means. They're one, and another one that I can see being a little bit vulnerable, Washington Capitals. And that one's interesting to me because this is a team that, I mean, they were plus 56 goal differential. I mean, you're a top end team in the league last year, and the fact that there's something with them. I thought a lot of guys had some very interesting years, and a lot of times when we're making predictions like this, I look at the teams that have players that maybe had a bunch of players having record-setting individual years, and that's going to correct itself in some regard. I think the Washington Capitals are one of those teams. You want me to just pop out West then and look at the West? West was hard.
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah. The West, I don't know what you think, Greg. The West, my knee jerk is I feel like it's going to kind of stay the same. Like I felt like the West was, I think there's some teams I'm really excited to see take that next step. But the West, I thought was pretty predictable last year and kind of rolling into this year. I'll say this. A team that I think might be a little bit vulnerable is actually the Minnesota Wild. I think it's a really good team as far as they're coached very well. There's a lot of things I really like about them, but there's not a lot of room for margin there. Like, they squeaked in this past year, and then that was also when they were pretty hot early on in the season, remember? So I don't know what they are. Are they a team that's going to be over 100 points? I think they're capable of it, but I also think there's some up and coming teams, and they're kind of that one team. I'll probably just go one. I like Utah. I think Utah has a great opportunity to get in. So they'll be the other team. I'll say I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say who's getting in. I'm supposed to say who's getting out. I think Minnesota will be the team coming out.
Minnesota. Okay. No, that's fine. So you got Utah. And I use my numbers of the 100 points, and it's hard to rationalize to say, okay, well, I think this team's going to drop by 15 or 20 points and miss the playoffs, which in a lot of cases, like the Jets had 116 points. They're not having 116, but do I think they're going to drop all the way like 20 plus points, which is what it would take likely for them to miss the postseason? Doesn't seem likely to me. I agree with you. Washington's going to come back, but I like their triangle offense. I like lots of pieces of their team. I still think they get in because I don't love their division, to be honest. I have Montreal, same as you. I think Montreal, I don't love their defense. I think they're going to be one of the more entertaining teams to watch in the NHL because I think they're going to score a lot of goals, but I think they're going to give up a lot of goals. And they had a lot of things going right to get in last year. Now, they only got in with 91 points too, which has actually been 2 years in a row now in the East. So I actually have both them and New Jersey out, and I have the Rangers coming back in. I think Sullivan will give them a boost behind the bench. JT Miller there full season long. I think they're all right. I don't love the K'Andre Miller move, but anyway. And then I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think Columbus last year, they were the emotional team, and I'll admit that I was rooting for them after everything that happened. I wanted to see them get in, but I love their young talent. Like, they got lots of guys. Like, I don't think Marchenko and Fantilli and, go down the list of guys are just like one-offs. I think they've got some real skill that they could move forward. And Werenski's an elite defender. And I really think that, they got to get better goaltending. There's no question about it. So that's my one concern. Can Elvis, find his way back into the building, to use a terrible term, but you know what I mean? So, because he's left the building for the last few years, but can he get his way back into the building? But that's kind of how I see it. I think Columbus is the team I'll pick. In the West, if I'm picking a 100-point team that I think susceptible, I think it's the LA Kings. They got older. Now, their penalty kill should be better. They brought in guys, Dumoulin and Cody Ceci, who can help on their penalty kill. Their penalty kill wasn't very good. You got Anze Kopitar's his final year, so that's going to go either two ways. It's going to be like, this is awesome, we're loving everything, or it becomes a little bit too much of the focus. I'm not a huge fan of a season-long goodbye, my own personal opinion. If there's one, it's them, but I actually think that it's going to come from the Central. I think Vancouver's getting back in, and I think it's going to be 4-4 in the Pacific. And the Central. Yeah, I think the Canucks Demko helps them a lot. Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson, he can't be that bad again. I can't rationalize that he can be that bad again. And the other Pettersson, I actually think is going to take a big step on their blue line to help them. Yeah. So I think Vancouver's going to find a way to come back in. I know they didn't make the playoffs last year, Rupper, but they had 96 points, which would have made the playoffs easily in the East. I think the Calgary Flames are the one team that I think is going to take a big step back in the standings in the Western Conference this year. They can't score. I know they're hoping Frost and Fairby, and based on preseason, it looks like they'll score more, but they relied on Dustin Wolf to be really good in a lot of games. And 24 one-goal games, I think it was, where they got tons of points in overtime. I don't think, I could be wrong. They got a great work ethic there. Huska just got rewarded as a 2-year contract extension as the new coach, but Calgary's the team for me. When you don't make any changes, Rupper, and you're a team that couldn't score, it's a big ask to think that suddenly, lots of other guys are going to start scoring more than they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, I loved watching the way Calgary played down the stretch and trying to get in. I mean, it was the Dustin Wolf show. I thought Nazem Kadri was incredible. Had some real big clutch moments for them. I agree with you. I like the team, the way they approach the game. I just don't think they're going to be better than what they did last year. I don't even know if they'll match that last year, and they were at 96 points. So, the one kind of kicker, I already mentioned Utah is a team. I don't know if it's me I've believed in this team for the last 3 years. I picked them to make the playoffs, dating back to Arizona. I don't know. I like this team, and they just got to stop these cold runs. I don't know. Maybe JJ Peterka helps out in some ways of just giving them another little punch offensively. I will lead into one of our other fun categories coming up. There's another player on that team that I think is going to have a massive season. But then the other team that jumps out at, I'm very intrigued by Anaheim. Anaheim's an interesting one for me. I think they're going to be much better now. They only had 80 points last year. So even if they're much better and say they get 95 points, 96 points, and 96 is what got in last year, 16 points improvement is huge. That is a massive step. I don't know if there'll be more than that, but I expect them to kind of finish in that 95, 96 point range. And who knows, maybe that's good enough to get in.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, as we're recording this on Friday morning, this just coming down, we mentioned Huska. The Edmonton Oilers have signed Kris Knoblauch to a 3-year contract extension, which really isn't a surprise. If you look at Knoblauch's start of his career up, we're talking top 5 best records early on to start a career. And he could, if he wins, I think he needs 6 more wins to get to 100 career wins. And if they win 6 of their first 8 or 9 games, he'll end up, I think, 3rd or 4th fastest to 100 wins as a head coach.
It's impressive.
History. So, he came in at the right time. And I'll say this, Kris Knoblauch, yes, he has a good team, but he has implemented a much more consistent system defensively than they had prior to his arrival. And that's the one thing they're going to work on and try to continue. I still think they need a scoring winger, and we'll get into that throughout the season. But I think that's a big thing for Edmonton, and we'll see about their goaltending. They got Ingram, right, for basically nothing, right? And that deal with Utah allows them to allow Ingram to find his game. Maybe he finds it, maybe he doesn't. We'll never know. But he doesn't count against the cap at 1.15 in the minors. And that was kind of the key, because people said, why wouldn't you just claim him on waivers? Well, hey, if you claimed him on waivers, you couldn't send him to the minors. And then they weren't going to send Pickard to the minors when this guy hasn't even played in training camp yet. So it was that was a decent move. But Knoblauch contract, I think, is a good one, well earned for him. He's got one of the best coaching records to start a career. Obviously helps. He inherited a good team. I understand that, but you still got to implement some systems. I think sometimes, Rupper, like Jack Adams Award, I get a little fatigued about it, that it seems it's only ever to a coach who nobody expects their team to do good and then do good. And it's like, oh, it's all good coaching. I'm like, well, sometimes it's harder to coach a good team and keep everybody fresh and implement subtle tweaks that keep you at the top, right? Like Rob Brindamore, to be able to get his guys to buy in year after year after year in how they play, to me, that's good coaching, right? Like it doesn't ever really, sometimes it gets overlooked.
No, I agree 100% on that. And the fact that pretty sure John Cooper does not have one, right?
Never won. Come on.
Never won. I would say if you were to list the best coaches or rank them, right? Most people would probably have John Cooper in the top 3. I probably have him at number 1. And I'm not saying now. I'm saying every single year since he came in like 2015. So it's been like a 10-year run of this guy, to your point, keeping it fresh, making adjustments. There's been a lot of overturn of that roster. He keeps them competitive every single year. So Brindamore, Cooper, I agree with you. I think sometimes coaches don't get the respect they deserve because, that team is supposed to be good. Well, there's a reason why they're supposed to be good. They're a well-coached team, and guys that thrive and players that thrive under those coaches are probably put in the right situation. So, I love that. And Kris Knoblauch should probably get a little more love in that category as well.
Let's bring in Pat Puff to the pod right now. And then, of course, coming up later, we're going to have some fun predictions on 50 goal scorers, the Art Ross, 100 points, etc. Pat, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, thanks. Fill in the blanks. Brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app. Get in on the game. Use code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Now, we've gone through a few random bets so far. We're getting close to the regular season, so they'll get more interesting here soon. But let's start with this one. I thought this was interesting because the Edmonton Oilers have a pretty good shot, according to Bet365, of making the Stanley Cup final. So for a Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup is plus 290. Also, we're talking recently about 5 teams that could make the Stanley Cup final. So what percent would you say chance a Canadian team has of winning the Cup, Gregs?
Wow, they're plus 290 and then USA minus 390. Well, I think Toronto's pretty good. I agree with Rupper off the top. They've changed the outlook of their team. They'll have all season long to see if they have, I guess, scoring by committee a little bit, but they still have Nylander. They still have Matthews. They still have John Tavares. Like, they got guys who can score, right? They need guys who do other things. I'm not saying they won't miss Mitch Marner at times. I think they will, but can their goalie stay healthy? But I think Toronto and Edmonton would be the 2 best. Winnipeg probably, I guess, would rank number 3 for me amongst Canadian teams. Ottawa, I don't know. I don't know if they're there yet. They finally made the playoffs, but they haven't won. It's rare to just go from 0 to winning the cup. So I think there's 2. Like, if I had to make 8 teams as cup contenders, I'd probably have Toronto and Edmonton in those 8. So what's that? I guess that's a 25% chance.
Yeah.
Maybe higher because there's 2 of them. But I'll say 25.
This is a hard one because really, there's some really good teams that you just mentioned. Edmonton, Winnipeg, Toronto. Toronto's path should theoretically be easier than any of those teams in the West as far as Canadian teams. I think some of the Canadian teams in the West teams might be better than Toronto, but they got an absolute gauntlet to run through. So, I don't know. I'd say somewhere, right around that. I don't know. I'd say 20% chance. It's, I don't know, man. It's just so hard. It's so hard to predict that. And the fact that, again, you're talking about a Western Conference that's just, you can't. I have no idea. Yeah, like no one would have picked Edmonton to make the finals the last 2 years, probably at the beginning of each season. But they found a way to do it. Now, can they do it a third time? Like Winnipeg, that's been their kind of kryptonite in the playoffs. Toronto, we know that's been their kryptonite. So I don't know. I'm going to talk myself down from 20% to like 15%.
Well, what's interesting, if you think about it, in the 20 years in the salary cap era, a Canadian team has made the final 6 times. They just lost all 6. Oilers are 0-3. Ottawa's lost. Vancouver's lost. Montreal's lost. So teams get there. They just can't win.
So maybe it sounds like Canada is due. So plus 290 might not be a bad bet. We'll jump while we're talking about Edmonton.
Yeah, I would buy out at a low number. I'm not betting Rupper's house on it, but
no. Let's just look at this one. Fill in the blank has the best shot at the Rocket Richard. We're talking Oilers. We're talking Toronto. So this is a good transition. What do you think, Mike?
Oh, it's hard for me not to say Leon, but in this aspect of the betting world, I want to look for some of the best payback. The payout of, I don't know, Tage Thompson. Like, he's been a guy that's been in that mix. He's hot and he runs cold at times. Not that cold. When he goes hot, I want to focus more on that. He is the hottest goal scorer in the National Hockey League at times. He's been in arm's distance from the top of the group. It seems like very often in his young career. So I'm going to say him at the plus 1,800. That's a good one.
Well, yeah, if you're playing the better odds, 100% it is, right? Leon was the only guy who had 50 goals last season. I think that's going to change, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. But I think Austin Matthews is the best pure goal scorer in the league. Health is always the concern for Austin, right? He's already got 401 goals. Like, we could have a great bet one day. Who scores 500 first? Matthews has 401. Leon has 399. Who gets to 500 first? That would be a good question, right? Because health definitely is a factor there. You know, the guy I'm probably most confident will score 50 because he's always healthy for the most part is Leon Draisaitl. Like, he had 52 in 71 games last year. That's what people kind of forget. Like, he was on pace to score 60. He was rolling. But I'm going to go with Matthews, even though it gives me the worst. I just think he's going to have a bounce back year goal scoring wise. And he's the guy.
You're not concerned about no Mitch?
Nah, I think he's actually going to shoot more. And guys, you know what? Whoever plays, like Max Domi's a passer. Max Domi's like, I'll pass it to Austin, no problem. So I think he'll be all right there. If I was going for better odds, I'd actually go McDavid. Right? He had 64 before. McDavid's talked about he wants to shoot more. It's a real big focus of his. Like, dude, he's only scored. He's only scored 58 goals the past 2 seasons combined. Like, he's averaging 29 goals the last 2 years. For a guy who went from 64 to averaging 29, it's not good. So my at plus 1,800 with Tage, I would put money on McDavid, but I'll fill in my brain blank and say Matthews.
For the pod listeners, Draisaitl plus 320, Matthews plus 375, McDavid plus 1,800. And if anyone's going to surprise us, it could be him. Last one I got for you guys.
What about Ovi? What about Ovi at plus 4,000?
I mean, he's a goal scorer.
Had 44 goals last year, guys. And like, that could, for plus 40, like for $20 at plus 4,000, like, that might not be a bad wager on Ovi, man.
It's definitely juicy.
It's a tough thing to ever bet against Alex Ovechkin in the goal scoring category. So I do like that one too.
Yeah, that one would be fun to watch all season. You'd be glued to your chair as well. And then the last one I got for you, speaking of McDavid, this is a new one that Bet365 is doing. Next permanent team. So this is you're betting on Connor McDavid to be an Oiler at the start of next season. So 2026, not this year. Right now, he's minus 160 for Edmonton, plus 130 for the field. So Gregor, I guess the question is percent chance McDavid is an Oiler by the start of next season.
No, I honestly today I still think it's like 97% chance that he's a good number.
That's cute.
For
that's
next
cute.
year. I just don't see him going anywhere. I really don't. Now, I don't think he's going to sign for an AAV like Kaprizov because he's not going to sign for that term. I think it's going to be a shorter term, and I think the AAV is going to come in closer to 15, which people might be like, oh my God, it's because he wants to win. And he's already made lots of money. And trust me, he does that for 2 years. He can bankroll and get 20 sheets easy on his next deal when the cap's even higher if he wants it. So I would, and plus at only plus 130, it's not really worth it to me to take the field. So I would take I wouldn't take minus 160. That's a terrible bet too. I would probably just pass on it either way.
Yeah. I'm right there. I'll say, I'm pretty much, I'm going to go 99. I'm going to go 99% sure that he's going to be back at Edmonton. I just think that the all-time greats, and he is one of those already, his job isn't complete. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to stay there forever in his entire career, But right now, being this close the last 2 seasons, I think he wants nothing more to see this through in Edmonton. So, I think he certainly gets it done there.
Sounds good. McDavid's the only one in this category on Bet365 right now, but as the season goes on, we'll see who gets added. That was Fill in the Blank, brought to you by Bet365.
Love it. Now, Rupper, let's have some fun with it, because last year the NHL only had 150 goal scorer, which, boo, boring. Yeah. I love goals. I want offense in the regular season. I want guys, multiple guys at 50, maybe multiple guys, at least multiple guys at 50, maybe even multiple at 60, right? Like you had 450 goal scorers the previous year, and with Matthews pushing almost 70 when he had 69. So how many guys will score 50 goals, and who will they be this year?
Oh, man. I'm going to say Leon is one. This one I might be working against myself here, but I do think Connor gets it. So I think Leon and Connor both get 50. Okay. So that's 2. I think Tage Thompson is 1 at 3. For some reason, I feel like Pasta's not going to get there. There's some other guys. Ovi's not going to get there. I know Willie Nylander had an incredible year. I'm going to say Austin Matthews will get there. So what is that? That's 4. I think there'll be 4 50-goal scorers this year.
So you have Matthews, Draisaitl, McDavid, and who's your 4th?
Thompson.
Tage Thompson. Yeah, but I'm a big team Tage Thompson fan. So because we had 5 in 23, 4 in 22, and then only 1 last year. And McDavid and Draisaitl have scored 50 together. That was the year McDavid actually scored 64. Draisaitl had 52. Yeah. So Rupper, you know what? I don't mind that prediction. I would probably stick with you on those 2. I think Austin Matthews is for sure scoring 50 this year. I don't like to be boring, but I also think I had Tage Thompson on my list as well. And then I got to pick someone, because I'm going to go with 5. I'm going to be positive today because I like goals. And I'm going to go with Braden Point to score 50 goals this season with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Because him and Kucherov both won't miss time. So that's why I think Point can get to the 50 mark. So we'll be back to 5, which would be which would be quite.
I like that, man. Give me more. I want to see a ton of 50 goal scores. I love that. So it was weird this year only having the 1, but it's good for Leon to get that rocket.
Oh yeah. Well, and then I want to do it for fun. Now 100 points is again like the 50 point, like goals went down, but really it all went down for the top guys. Because in 2023, we had 11 100-point scores. In 24, we had 9. And then this past year, there was only 6. So like almost a 50% reduction from 2 years, right? Going from 11 down to 6. It's not a good trend. And McDavid just got there. He had 100 points. Now he missed 15 games, right? And Draisaitl and Pasternak and Mitch Marner for the first time in his career reached the century mark. Nathan McKinnon, Nikita Kucherov, 1-2 again in league scoring. So how many 100-point guys do you have this coming season?
Oh, man. All right. I'm just going to name them because I didn't count them. I think 100 points, we've got Nikita Kucherov. I think Nathan McKinnon, Leon Draisaitl, those seem like pretty easy ones. I don't feel like Pasta's going to be there this year. I do think Connor's going to be there. That's 4. Here's one that's tricky. I know that Mitch Marner got his first 100-point season. I don't think he gets 100 points, but I think his teammate, maybe / line mate, Jack Eichel, does get 100 points. So that'll be 5. And then I went with one a little bit. I don't want to say it's off the board because he had 90 points last season, and I kind of teased him a little bit earlier. I think Clayton Keller from Utah. I think he gets to the 100-point club this year. So what's that, 6 now? I got 6.
That is 6. You got 6. Well, I agree with the first 4. I think Kucherov, McKinnon, McDavid, Draisaitl, those are the guys who will do it. I actually think Matthews is going he's going to have a big season for Toronto. Yeah. And I think he will. So I'm going to give him, he's my 5th. I'm going to go, I don't mind. I'm going Braden Point because I have him scoring 50 goals. So I think if he gets 50 goals, he's probably going to get 100 points as well. So he would be one that I have in there. I'm going to go Mikko Rantanen in Dallas.
Yeah,
I like Mikko, who had 100 points a few seasons ago. I know he played with McKinnon, but I think he's settled in there. He was in Dallas last year, And while he didn't light it up right away, he did have some huge games at times. And I think that he's got the potential to get back to 100. So that is now 6. I really like your Jack Eichel prediction, but my concern is health in Vegas. They always find ways for those guys to miss 5, 6, 8 games. So that won't do it. But how about this? I'm going to go Cale Makar on defense. Matches what Erik Karlsson did. So he's going to be my 7th. And I'm going to go with, geez, I really like your Keller pick, so I don't want to copy that. I'll go Kyle Connor. He's in a free agent year, baby. And he's going to be shooting for the moon. I'm going to go with Kyle Connor for 8.
You know what's funny? We didn't talk about this prior. We have a lot of the same mindset too. Even hearing you going through which guys you like, don't like, as far as getting there. The one guy just kind of looking at this list, I don't think he's going to get 100 points, but it makes me wonder, it takes me to a different, we don't have to discuss this, but it makes me think of what an opportunity the Tampa Bay Lightning had this last year if they didn't run into the Florida Panthers in the playoffs. We always talk about Edmonton kind of, or LA running into Edmonton. Do we forget that? I forgot that Brandon Hagel had 90 points. Like, so you got Kucherov, you've got points, you've got Gensel, and you got Hagel. Hagel's got 90 points. So
that was probably the biggest, most unexpected 90-point season, no question, right? And I like Brandon Hagel, man. Right. I've liked him since he played in Red Deer in the WHL. But yeah, I wouldn't have, if you would have given me a list of guys who scored 90, he wasn't going to be on the 12, no question.
Wow. So but that makes me feel like your Braden Point one at 100 points. That's the one I missed on mine. But
the other guy I want to add, because if he stays healthy, Rupper, Jack Hughes will get 100 points this year if he stays healthy.
So I was going to say that was one of them that I was teetering with. I wanted to pick someone off the board. I wanted to pick someone that,
Keller, that's a big jump. I don't mind it at all.
Keller's that. I was thinking Jesper Bratt, and then I'm like, I don't know, man. He only gets healing. He's like a 20 goal. He doesn't score many goals. Yeah. But then, the Jack Hughes one could certainly happen if he's healthy.
Yeah, no, I like that one. So lastly, who is your Art Ross winner for points, and who wins the Richard in goals?
Okay, so I mean, I gotta go Connor for the Art Ross. I think that I don't want to say. I think there's motivation here. There's always motivation with him. This guy, just from what happened the last 2 seasons in the Cup Finals. But I think that we're going to have an explosive year from him. And that sounds absolutely foolish when it comes out of my mouth, because every season is explosive for him. I think we're going to see something special this year from Connor. So I got him and Art Ross. And then as far as the Rocket, I got to keep it in house there. Like, if he's winning the Art Ross, and I already said that Leon's going to get 50 goals, like, I think Leon's going to lead the league. I think that pace you said that he was clipping at last year, I want to see him healthy for 80 games. Give me 80 games. Leon at 80 games, I think he's got 60 goals in him.
Ooh, so you're going Leon and Connor. All right. I do have McDavid in the Art Ross, right? Although I think it's going to be extremely close between him, Kucherov, and McKinnon, all 3. Yeah. I think and I'm hoping we got all 3 guys above 120. That would be fantastic for me. And I think Austin Matthews is going to win the Rocket. Draisaitl, he'll be close. He'll probably score 50, but Draisaitl has mentioned it many times, Rupper. His big focus is, and with Barkov out, Draisaitl wants to get in the running. He finished 6th last year in the Selke. He's an elite. When I hear two-way player, too often I think two-way gets talked about guys who score 25 goals. Oh, great two-way player. No, they're not great because they're good offensively. They're not great. To me, like, Barkov is a great two-way player. He's pretty good offensively, 90 points, obviously elite defense. That to me is a great two-way player. When Leon Draisaitl can lead the league in goals and be 6th in Selke, that's a great two-way player. And I don't think it's still going to be hard pressed to win. There's guys like Sorelli and other guys that I think are really good, but Sam Reinhart, we'll see, what does Sam Reinhart's numbers look like without Barkov there this season in Florida? We'll see, but I'm going to take Matthews to win the Rocket, and I'm thinking he's going to stay healthy. He's only going to miss like 4 or 5 games, and I think he'll push 60 again.
I think he's due for Austin is always like the one incredible year, and for his standards, maybe an off year. It's still a good year in National Hockey League standards. But and if you go kind of year on, year off, this is an up year incoming here for Austin Matthews.
Rupper, great stuff, man. I can't wait. Next Friday, we'll have a bevy of games to talk about, some early season stuff. Who knows, maybe some waiver wire pickups, some potential trades as teams try to finalize their roster. So we'll get to all of that. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the playoffs. You got a team in MLB. Do you root for anybody?
Yeah. So, you know, I kind of casually a Guardians fan, being from Cleveland. I'm kind of on the Yankees bandwagon just from being here a little bit. So, you know, I know that the people of Toronto or in Canada maybe rooting for the Jays aren't going to like that. But I just love watching playoff baseball. So I have my teams that I don't want to win. And that's pretty much the Dodgers, and then I'll take I'll take the rest of the field. Anybody can win. I don't care.
You don't care anybody but the Dodgers. That's fair.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a Guardians fan, the guy from St. Albert, Alberta, Eric Zambrowski, that guy is a machine. Look at their bullpen. He was unreal coming. He's great, an unreal kid, but he is a huge dude, man. Like pitchers nowadays, like look at the size of some of these pitchers. Like, did you see the San Diego guy, Mason Miller? He struck out his last 12 batters were 11 strikeouts. One guy was a hit batter, and he threw 104.5 miles an hour. Like, and paints the corner. Like, it's crazy what they're doing in baseball with pitchers nowadays. But, you know, obviously, you know, I'm a big Jays fan. I'm like, I don't like I'm not a big Dodgers fan. They overspend more than anybody. So not a big fan of it. Out of the 8 teams who left, if the Brewers, if Toronto doesn't win, I'd be all over the Brewers, man. I'd love to see Milwaukee win.
Yeah, no, that's kind of, you know, I like seeing different markets too. So I wouldn't mind getting behind that one.
For sure.
Yeah.
Dude, I went on a trip once from Chicago to Green Bay for Monday Night Football after seeing the Bears game, and you drive literally right by Milwaukee, and it ain't that big. So if the Brewers can win, man, in beer country, they'd have a lot of fun. Rupper, we'll talk to you next Friday, man. Have a good one. That's the rundown brought to you by Bet365.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.